Dallas Stars 6, Edmonton Oilers 2. Welcome back to the day after reaction. Myself, Waz, and Cam. Cam, mayonnaise are just, it's not our cup of tea.
No, for as long as I can remember, the biggest nightmare for the Edmonton Oilers has been playing afternoon hockey games. I mean, I was born in 1993. I started watching hockey in the late 90s, and throughout all of it, this team has never been able to show up for afternoon games. And I mean, this is kind of a problem for the team this year because of the US TV deal. The American teams want to have that prime matchup, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl on TV Saturday afternoon. So it's not like the Oilers can just, hey, we only play the occasional afternoon game. They play multiple afternoon games this year. They play next week. They're going to be in Florida for an afternoon game. 2 weeks after that, they're doing an afternoon game in New York. And then in mid-December, they're hosting Anaheim for an afternoon game. So they got to get this figured out sooner rather than later because they can't just have those all be scheduled losses.
That's interesting because the NHL schedule for the Oilers in general is really weird. Like, barely any Sunday games, barely any Friday games, but then you have like games in the middle of the afternoon on Saturdays. It's very strange, I find. But let's get to your three takeaways. What was your first takeaway from the game?
Well, that was my first takeaway was the afternoon games thing. They really seriously need to figure out a way to wake themselves up and get some kind of effort for these afternoon games because I mean, there's not much more you can do. You can't really write a letter to the league and say, "Hey, look, we'd rather not play in the afternoon." Like I said, it's the US TV deal. It's going to be a thing for them and it might be a thing for them next year and the year after that. It might just continue to be a thing as the American TV stations want the Oilers playing in the afternoon. And then the next thing here is it was another rough start from Jack Campbell. He's had 8 starts now this season. I think 3 of them were pretty good. One was mediocre, and now 4 of them have been bad. And this was one of the bad ones. But I'm not sure in this game if I want to pin it entirely on Jack Campbell. That's not the reason they lost. It was a mediocre effort from the team. It was both of them combined. It's kind of a chicken and the egg situation. Was Campbell weak because the defense in front of him was bad? Was the team in front of him bad because they're not confident in their goalie? It's, maybe a little bit of both,
Mhm.
but I think this one kind of is a disappointing one for the Oilers because, they blew the 3-1 lead against New Jersey and you'd really like to come back and have a good game. And then you see on the schedule the team you're playing is the Dallas Stars. That's the team that drafted Jack
Right.
Campbell and decided, hey, we're not interested in this guy. We don't think he's good enough. They traded him off to LA for nothing. And then he kind of finds himself and gets his career going. So if there was a team to really come forward and put a great effort for your goalie who's been struggling this season, he hasn't acclimatized himself to the new market just yet. If there was ever a game to come out and just really bear down and play super well, it would have been against the team that drafted him, but they didn't do that.
No, I agree. And Jack Campbell after the game said, frankly, his performance is pathetic to start the year. I don't know if it's a little too harsh on himself. I know he's kind of known to be someone who's, he can get down on himself easily. And then Jay Woodcroft obviously said what it was a team loss, honestly. So I think, I mean, to be fair, if you look at the shots against, that's the Oilers to continually keep how many shots against is Skinner facing, Campbell facing, right?
Yeah. I mean, the Oilers are definitely not making it easy on their goalies so far this season. They definitely need to figure out a way to tighten things up. And I mean, hey, we do have to be a little critical of Campbell for this one, too. It was
Yes,
two different
100%.
goals, really big back-breaking goals that he should have had. He just doesn't look comfortable in the net right now. They need to figure something out. Maybe going on the road coming up here is what's going to do it. The Oilers have looked better on the road this season than they have at home for whatever reason. It's a weird thing. Last year the Oilers were an excellent home team. This year early on that just hasn't been the case. So maybe that's what gets them moving in the right direction.
I know for your third takeaway, you mentioned to me about the road trip coming up. Talk about more about your third takeaway here.
Yeah, another reason why it's kind of unfortunate that they had a difficult homestand here, which was it started off well. There was the win against Nashville. They played quite well. The New Jersey game, it was okay. It wasn't a terrible effort, but they wound up taking the loss. And then the Dallas effort, I would say, was probably their worst of the season by a pretty wide margin. It's unfortunate you have back-to-back losses going into this trip now because they're going to hit the road to face 4 playoff teams in the span of 6 days. On Monday, it's Washington. On Tuesday, it's Tampa. Then on Thursday, it's in Carolina. And then on Saturday, it's that game that I mentioned, the afternoon one, 4 p.m. local start against the Florida Panthers, who were last year's President's Trophy winners. So, I mean, it's 4 really good teams. And if the Oilers go and put forward that effort that they just put up against Dallas at home in any of these games, they're going to get embarrassed in somebody else's stadium.
Yeah, no. One player I wanted to ask you about was Kyler Yamamoto. He's a player who's been getting a lot of criticism recently, especially being in that top six, not really producing. What would your take be on him right now?
That's a tough one. I mean, the Oilers have three guys, Kyler Yamamoto, Jesse Puljujarvi, and Warren Fogle, who make a combined $10 million, and they're supposed to be Edmonton's depth scoring. You're expecting somewhere between maybe 10, 15, 20 goals from those guys each. And there's been virtually zero offensive push from all three of those guys
Hmm.
so far. And I mean, Yamamoto, 20-goal scorer last year. He's looked upon to do that exact same thing this year. That's kind of been the challenge outside right now of Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. The team's not really generating much offense. This is supposed to be the strength of the team, is that from top to bottom they can score goals, and that's not happening right now. So I imagine on the road trip we'll see some kind of shakeup. I'm not really sure what it is, or how you mix things up to make it work. But one thing that might maybe make sense is giving Dylan Holloway a look on a skill line. I think he's
Yeah.
done I mean, he had his mistake against New Jersey, rookie mistake. Those things happen. You have to accept it and move on. But I mean, he's also brought quite a bit of skill and speed to that fourth line with Devin Shore and Derek Ryan, and they're getting chances. So maybe it's time to put him on one of the McDavid or the Draisaitl lines and just see what happens.
Yeah, and I get, oh geez, it's all dark here, the light. But Derek Ryan is like someone who's producing right now as well. I mean, you talk about like depth scoring. Derek Ryan seems to be getting a little bit out of it. So yeah. Anything else you'd like to say before we wrap this one up?
No, that's it. I just let's hope that going on the road is good for the Oilers. The last time they went on a road trip, they went 3-0, and it looked like it had turned the season around early on. They came back home, and then the efforts kind of got worse again. So let's hope that we have another really strong
Yeah,
road trip here.
yeah.
Otherwise, things are gonna things are gonna look pretty bad pretty quick.
I mean, they just won five in a row, lost two in a row now. But welcome. Thank you to everyone who tuned into the day after reaction. We'll see you after the Washington game, which is tomorrow. So don't forget to head to OilersNation.com for more, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you next time.